Oh God, it's been so long. Which way round are we now?
Oh God, what episode is this? Oh, I don't have any of it on here. Oh no. Oh, and I don't even have my phone.
Oh
Crap.
no, it's immediately gone wrong.
All hell.
Hi, I'm James,
And I am Emmy.
and welcome to the Bestiary Monster Manual A through Z. And this week, Emmy, I'm so excited to start this. What are we talking about?
Giants!
Giants.
Yay!
My sort of personal favourite currently, kind of section of things in the Monster Manual and in D&D at large, giants are, well, big in many ways.
You know, it's funny. And now, of course, this description is in Volos, which is, we don't want to go too far into stuff that's in other books like entries and things. So we may touch again on giants that appear in different books at another time. But in Volos, one of my very favorite things is first impressions of giants. Giants are huge. Giants are heavy. Giants are loud. And giants are strong. They're just real big, you guys. And in every way, giants are big in the very literal sense, but they're also very big in the amount of lore and the way that their society is built, in the fact that there are multiple kinds who have relationships within their own societies and with other giants, with the way they interact with the world. Everything about them is huge.
Yeah, you can't understate, in almost like a Pokemon-ish way, that these things are what their name is.
I'm just imagining a stone giant. Stone giant. Stone giant. Just
Giant.
walking along.
Giant.
It's all it says is different inflections.
Yeah, but no, you absolutely hit the nail on the head with that like the way in which they are so significant in the lore, in even in their diminished state in the quote-unquote present day of the default Forgotten Realms setting. Of course, giants can be anything you want in something else, but in the default Forgotten Realms setting, they are so incredibly significant for the history of the world, its present state, the way in which they just
Yeah,
like,
it's almost too overwhelming to talk about.
Giants were created and existed and had a world-spanning empire before creatures like humans and elves even existed.
They are incredibly old. And I do think this is an important point that we should talk about. This is the first video we're going to do on them, which is on general giant lore. And we are going to be covering the Forgotten Realms setting in this particular instance. Of course, we can talk about things you can do with them a little bit more when we go into individual ones. But when we're talking about the big lore, this is the exact setting we are talking about.
Right. And yeah, of course, giants are far too large, both literally and figuratively, to cover in just one video as we do it in this format of the Bestiary. So we're going to do like a few on these, and right now we're just going to talk about like giants in general, and then we're going to do a deep dive. But yes, giants were created by one of the most ancient gods that there is, Anam, the All-Father.
What a name!
I know, it's so
cool. It's so true. It just even saying it, you're like, made by Anam, the All-Father. I want like a cinematic narrator to come in, like the beginning of like the Transformers movie. That narrator.
I volunteer. But yes, created to be huge and strong, that they might be able to look down on all the rest of the world that they rule over, and strong enough to bend it to their wills, and also tall that they might be closest to the knee of the All-Father himself. The giants, in their various forms, which I'll get to in a moment, created and ruled over an empire that spanned the entire world called Astoria. Astoria was, imagine the height of Imperial Rome. It was decadent and excessive and just almost beyond our reckoning. Like, it was an empire spanning a world of giants. It's like,
it was intense.
just truly epic in the real sense of the world. In the real sense of the word, sorry. And then there was a great war that happened between giants and dragons. Dragons, of course, mothered by Tiamat, the ruler of all dragonkind. And
at least the chromatic guys.
Indeed. The war raged for centuries. And in the end, while neither side really won, Astoria was devastated, never to rise again. And in his fury that his children had failed to preserve their creation, Anam disavowed all giant kind. So while giants recognize Anam as their creator and progenitor, they do not worship him as other belief systems might a god, because they know it will not do anything. There was this severance of connection between Anam and his ordning. And the ordning is a thing in and of itself.
It's, again, talking about giants is almost overwhelming, even in a very, very broad sense.
We're barely even scratching the surface here. Like, I am running over a bunch of things.
A whole bunch. We're just combining it into a little bit. And it's very important when we are talking about Anam to recognize that the giants have their own entire pantheon separate to themselves. And I mean, almost all races in D&D do, which is something that can be very overwhelming to look at, but also, of course, really fun, and it makes the world dynamic and huge. But their gods are very specific and very old, and there are a lot of them.
Yeah.
And their religion and their relationship to each other is all very intertwined.
Now, the ordning in and of itself is utterly fascinating.
Yes.
It's a class structure of sorts, like a social hierarchy, I guess you'd call it. And the different strata of giant society as it exists, and presumably as it existed during the reign of the Empire of Astoria, is complicated.
Yeah,
because each one of these levels of giant life have their own gods and their own principles and their own way of interacting with each other.
Completely different societies within a society itself.
Exactly. Like, which is why I love the idea of giants so much. It's like this whole idea of cultures within cultures, religions within religions. Like, you compare a hill giant to a storm giant, and you might also say, like, well, these are completely different beings, but they're not. They're classified within the same level of things. And starting right at the bottom, like, you have like giant kin that don't quite count within the ordning, things like Ettins or Fomorians, like, but they're not giants technically, but
they're not part of the ordning proper. They're kind of like on the edge of it.
Yeah, they're fringe elements. And starting right at the bottom, you have hill giants, moving up to fire giants, stone giants, frost giants, cloud giants, and then at the very top of the ordning, the storm giants.
Yes.
And each of them very much classified and characterized in their own way. So as you can see in the art here, the different forms of giant, the different levels of the ordning, fire, frost, hill, stone, etc., they're definitely characterized as being completely different, and I really like that they capture that in the artwork, and that the nature of the ordning is conveyed somewhat.
Their differences are very apparent when looking at it this way, when you set them all up in a line. It really, I think, again, lends to that idea of people within people, that all of them are together, all giants, but completely separate from each other in many, many, many ways. And that really is reinforced, again, when we're talking about these societies. Giants are incredibly class-based within their own societies as well. But no matter what, if you have a frost giant and a fire giant talking to each other, the fire giant will always defer to the frost giant, because that's how the ordning works. It might not be happy. The frost giant, they might be terribly angry to do that, but nonetheless, they will always defer.
Yeah, the ordning is almost like, it's not just a concept, like we talk about class-based societies in our own world, but that's just a thing that we kind of conceive of. The ordning is a force. It binds giants to this social and class structure. Like the greatest chief of hill giants could never overrule the lowest fire giant. They are forced into this system by the will of their creator god, Anam.
Yes, it's different than within their own societies, which might have more to do with strength, personality, wealth, depending, of course, on the different kind of giant. But within the ordning itself, it is a mandate. It is an existence. It is something that is as much a part of them as their own bones.
Right, yeah. And of course, in subsequent episodes, we're going to get into how exactly these particular groups work within themselves. But as giants in general are concerned, yeah, they are forced and, as you say, mandated to keep this hierarchy and be bound by it, unless something were to come along and unbind them.
Thank you so much for joining us this week on The Bestiary, Monster Manual A through Z. How many different kinds of giants have you encountered? Did you, in fact, keep a collector card of each one? Are any of them holographic? Please tell us in the comments down below. We'd really love to hear your story. And while you're there, you can check out all the links to our different social media. You can find our Patreon. We love our patrons so much. It's through you that we get to be able to continue what we do, and we appreciate you with all of our hearts. You can like this video. You can subscribe. You can watch some more videos here. And you can join us next week when we begin talking about the hill giants.